And it's funny, Joe Madden came out at the outset and said we're not going to rely too heavily on the analytics, which is kind of interesting. But if we know anything, Mike Scioscia, who was there for 2 decades, was ran out of that team because of his non-reliance on the analytics. Now, I think Madden is not a dumb guy, and I think he's going to work with Artie Moreno and co. And they're gonna put together a comprehensive plan. I think you'll see a better Angels team next year, but they're still going to have to make a lot of additions. Cole Calhoun's going to be a free agent. They're going to have to go after a right fielder, maybe a Marcelo Zuna, who's a good defender and can hit for some power.
For the St. Louis Cardinals,
Yeah, but I'm still, you know what, say what you want about analytics, and I get it to a certain degree. I'm not a real big analytics guy either, only to a certain extent. You can only take it so far. And I'll tell you why I say this, because when I was at the National Sports Media Association convention, one of the things that we ended up doing out there was we went ahead and saw all these little things about pitching enhancements with all these little techniques with computers and all that are above and beyond just numbers. We're talking about the way the body movements are and electrodes or whatever that stuff is. And to me, it's just something you never thought. Even when we had Gene Deckerhoff earlier on our Sports Exchange special, here's a guy that never thought about podcasting and all that and satellite radio and all that. So it's just a totally different animal altogether.
It is. I agree with you, but the problem is as far as front offices are thinking, and we've seen it with the Rays, with the Astros, with teams like the St. Louis Cardinals who have vastly improved their infield defense via the implementation of analytics, the Dodgers too, and the Yankees to a degree.
The A's a long time ago, with Moneyball.
Exactly, the Oakland A's, and they're still doing it with the land of misfit toys. But the thing that the point I'll try to make, and I'll be brief with it, and let me know if you agree, Damon, is that a lot of the old ways of thinking, that those personalities are being phased out of the game. And I think why analytics is such a thing is because front offices see the value in it, and that's why it's so universal nowadays. That's why every team has an analytics department.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And, not only are they basing it on performance, they're also basing it on how much do we pay this player for his worth. And so that's a huge mindset to have, because if you overpay for a player and then find out 5 years later, I could have saved money and got this player and kept him. And so, I feel like the Tigers, they ran into that with JD Martinez when they didn't sign him, and they, instead to sign Victor Martinez. Looking at JD's production now, I would have gave the money to JD. So,
but it's easy to look back on something like that. I mean, Victor Martinez, that's an interesting example of Victor Martinez and JD Martinez. Few people realize JD Martinez really wasn't anything when he left the Houston Astros, but became something with the Tigers. And then with the Diamondbacks until he landed where he's at. So,
the Diamondbacks, he was historically good. He was he had a 4 home run game against the Dodgers.
Right, but you're talking about Victor Martinez is one of the finer hitters in baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
He broke down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, certainly proven, but you're paying a 36-year-old guy money that should go to an up-and-coming superstar, a rare talent, and so when you have that in your clubhouse and on your team, you got to take that. Like, you have to. That is such a huge loss, and it's still killing us,
Well, but think about it this way. Mike Ilitch was a very generous owner. He wanted to win one in the worst way, so you can't really blame him.
No, certainly not. And I don't blame him for giving the contract offer to Verlander of 9 years, whatever plus million it was. And I would have done the same thing too. Verlander's a rare talent too, given his performance in the World Series. But still, any fool would pay him that money, so.
There's always a fool that'll pay anybody any money in Major League.
Yeah.
Unlike the NFL, where all your contracts are guaranteed. So, anything you want to ask?
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up and go on to Tom Shanahan momentarily.
I know you don't like this, Damon. Listen, he's one of my favorite players ever. But Pujols, I mean, the myriad of knee surgeries that he's had has really zapped a lot of the power. And we've seen it with Miguel Cabrera, and I hate it too because I wrote a piece about this a couple of months ago on the Tribune's website. About Cabrera, really one of the best pure hitters of our generation.
Exactly.
The injuries, which Cabrera didn't hit the disabled list until 2013, I believe, for the first time.
Yeah, a year after he won the Triple Crown.
He still won the MVP in 13.
Yeah, he's an amazing talent. Knowing how to hit or knowing when to hit and taking pitches, that'll pay dividends no matter if you're injured or if you're just struggling to hit it out. If you play the field, you're going to find success and you're going to drive in runs. And so that's the name of the game, and that's how you win, So, a 1-2 punch like that's rare. And so to see them kind of, it's happening at the proper age. It's not like it's in the middle of their 20s and they're coming up. It's good that they're climbing now instead of early.
Oh, totally. I couldn't agree with you more.
All right, well, gentlemen, that puts a wrap on it tonight. So meanwhile,
thank you, Stu. Thank you, Lewis.
Oh, you're welcome. Find us some good current events, and we'll talk about them Tuesday night. So thank you very much
for sure.
Tonight.
I can't wait.
Being on the show. We will look
Happy Halloween. Yep. Happy
Halloween.
Well.
Yep.
Have a good night.
You too.
Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Brings up some valid points, doesn't he?
No, I mean, I agree with him. Yeah, Pujols isn't the same player he was before. Right. A lot of the numbers can tell you that. And, the injuries just do catch up to him. Father Time is undefeated, unfortunately. Nolan Ryan could have played forever, at least we thought. But
I don't know. Nolan Ryan did pretty good,
He blew out his arm on his last pitch. You know what was funny, though? Nolan Ryan was 47 years old. That last pitch was clocked at 98 miles an hour.
I'll tell you, he didn't blow out his arm when he clocked Robin Ventura, though, did he?
No, he didn't. That was the same year, too, in 93. Ventura runs to the mound, and he stops about halfway.
One of these days we could go ahead and do a show of some of those comical events that ever took place. And I think Robin Ventura was on the wrong end of one of those moments.
He was also comical in managing the White Sox, but that's beyond the point.
That's funny. That's funny. At a time on Halloween, we need a few treats. We don't certainly need any more tricks. But but that's for another day and another time.
I think on the Cole signing, though, I mean, look, what's funny is we owe it, 2 years ago, the Phillies came out and said that they're going to heavily pursue Harper and Machado in free agency, and they were going to wind up with one of those two players. And if anything, I'm glad it's Harper as opposed to Machado, just because Machado, I think, is a little bit more of a prima donna. And you know what? I'll openly say that. But
so one team finished near the bottom, and the other one,
anyway,
became ringless.
They were just neutral, right? They were libertarian, but The thing is, we kind of know that Cole is going to wind up with the Angels. It's an inevitability. But the problem is, as soon as Harper signed with the Phillies, I didn't think they were going to win the World Series. And none of us should think that if Cole signs with the Angels, because as we realized and as we saw, they weren't complete. McCutchen got hurt. Segura was a below-average offensive player. The pitching never manifested. And you know what? If Cole signs there, they're still going to have to go out and get a guy like a Cole Hamels. They're going to have to, shore up their bullpen. They're going to have to look for, improvement from reliever/starting pitcher Felix Pena in the second year of his career with the Angels. Nothing is set in stone if you get one guy. One guy, as we saw with Harper, doesn't make a team.
But when you talk about giving out these big money contracts, so we can talk about contracts all day long. Okay, these pitchers' contracts, to me, in my opinion, very few of them are any good. I mean, now the Max Scherzer one actually turned out well. But if you want to go ahead on the next show, okay, and being able to go ahead and tell me how many more of them worked out, that's another story. So in case anybody wants to go ahead and read Lewis's stuff, okay, you can go ahead and look up his work at SouthFloridaTribune.com with 3 W's in front of it, and Lewis will give you all the analytics and information that you can handle. So, but we'll get back to my point before Tommy comes on.
Go ahead.
How many of those great pitching contracts, not enough to justify the numbers?
Kershaw and Scherzer are the two that I think of.
But even Kershaw, to a certain extent, yes, but
the World Series, it's the monkey, right?
Well, if you're going to say that, then Justin Verlander blows it, too, at the World Series.
He has a ring, unlike Kershaw.
Oh, that's true. I'll give him that.
But again, not every player makes the team. I agree with you. The benefit that Cole has, which makes it look like his contract is going to be just as good. You know what? I mean, Scherzer went to the playoffs in 2014, but the Tigers were swept at 4 games by the freaking Baltimore Orioles.
Right, I know.
Or not the Baltimore Orioles, I'm sorry. They were swept by the Kansas City Royals. But with that said, Scherzer actually was a year older when he got his contract than Cole, and this is a piece that you can find on SouthFloridaTribune.com where I wrote about this. I think Cole's contract will be just fine.
Yeah, but Tom Shanahan's contract is just fine, too. Hey, Tom, how you doing? Welcome back to the Sports Exchange. How you doing, buddy? Probably didn't catch the other end of that, but that's okay. Meanwhile, we're going to go to a bigger round ball, not called a baseball, and we're going to be talking ACC hoops, aren't we?
Yeah, I was at the Duke exhibition game last night, and Duke is going to be more interesting than we might have thought. They're not the 2 or 3 man team they were last year with Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, resorting to a lot of one-on-one play. They're going to be a team working the ball around to all 5 guys. To me, it was a lot more fun to watch. It wasn't breaking down to a lot of one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, it's so all right. So you part of that Duke exhibition game last night, Coach K and his grandson. I got to hear this one.
Yeah. Well, his grandson is probably about a Division II caliber player. He played at Durham Academy, but he wanted to play for his grandfather. Who can blame him for that? And Duke has a tight team. They have a good group of guys. No one's going to be upset about the coach's grandson being on the team like it might be at other schools. And so he plans to redshirt him. He's only about like 6 foot, about 165, something like that. So he's got to grow into his body still. But Coach made the point, says we were able to empty the bench, and not just his grandson, but everybody else that hadn't played got into the game. And then he made the point that he's going to redshirt, and the kid's name is Michael Savarino, and Michael's grandmother, of course, Coach K's wife, and his mother, of course, Coach K's daughter, were there in the press conference. When he made an aside over to during the press conference, he said, and I don't want anybody calling the parents, calling the coaches, complaining about playing time.
Right.
So it was a pretty funny moment. But the other interesting thing about that, the night before, Tom Izzo has his son playing for him in Michigan State. Similar circumstance. He's not really a Division I player, but wants to play for his dad. And he's going to be mostly, just a practice squad guy. And he's going to redshirt. And in their exhibition game, he got into the game and scored a free throw. Savarino got into the game and scored 2 free throws. So it's kind of coincidental how those 2 games worked out.
Yeah, it's funny, though. We could joke around about this, but if Coach K wants to buy his grandson a car, okay, as an incentive, where do you go ahead and draw the line between a violation or a gift?
Yeah.
I mean, I've always wondered about the phenom of that.
Yeah.
A family member who's going to, of course, now with the new rules, we won't get started on that. Who's going to get what? But just a little something to throw out there. So.
Yeah, I remember that going way back to when Bo Schemblecker was coaching in Michigan, and
right.
His son was playing high school football, and there had to be some restriction about him going to the games because he was seeing other players too. So,
yeah.
The NCAA is kind of a whipping boy. Sometimes they get carried away with these rules, but they're all intended to negate illegal recruiting and special advantages. And sometimes it just gets twisted and mangled.
I'll tell you, one of the all-time favorite NCAA basketball feuds I ever saw was Jerry Tarkanian going at the NCAA. Oh, my goodness. And for it to play out at UNLV in Las Vegas made it even more comical with the Tark going ahead and eating that towel.
Yeah. Well, and those guys were in the jacuzzi with gamblers, so.
That's true. That is so funny.
Going on there all the time. But, back to that Duke game, when I was talking about the team play, which is going to be more spread the ball around than last year. Here's a couple of numbers that were interesting. They played great pressure defense. So they had 36 points off return. I didn't even tell you the score, I don't think. They beat Fort Valley State, which is a Division II team, and they beat them 126-57. Now, that's not significant that they routed them. Of course they were going to rout them. What's significant is the points they scored, 126, and they had 67 at halftime. That's pretty similar to the routes that they had last year when Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett were making an embarrassment of the exhibition games. So they have the potential to put up those kind of numbers, and they're not going to have to rely on 1 or 2 guys. But, of course, they don't have, an NBA dominant player to take over at any time. But, anyways, they're searching for their lineup, and they played great pressure defense, like I said, 36 points off of turnovers, 25 points off of fast breaks, 13 of 28 three-point shooting, And Joey Baker, who came off the bench and will play a bigger role this year, was 6 of 8. He's a small forward, 6'7" kid. And if you recall, the three-point shooting was one of their weaknesses. When Barrett or Reddish weren't hitting their three-pointers, then he just kept driving to the basket. And that's when the game got kind of stagnant with one-on-one play. So this might be a better